Hi, my name is Aaron. I'm with Fleetistics, and today we're going to be installing the Rosco Vision System Dual-Vision in-cab camera on the windshield, and we're going to take you through that process step by step, hopefully help you be able to do installs more effectively and correctly. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing you want to do is go through the equipment, come up with a game plan inside the cab of the vehicle, get a relative idea of where everything is going to connect and where the parts and components are going to go. Now in this particular installation, we're going to be connecting the camera to the the vehicle's main power supply. It's going to be a pretty typical install for a commercial vehicle, and then the data is going to be matched with the Geotab GPS tracking system in the cloud, and that information is then going to be visible to the customer or online inside of the Geotab account itself. So we'll go ahead and get started, prep the vehicle, and then we'll come back to you. Here's the main module. This is the mount which has the adjustment for the angle. Inside of here is the adjustment screw, the tightening screw. So when you get this mounted on the window, then you'll take the camera off and you'll use that nut to loosen the plate. You'll adjust the angle and you'll tighten that back up, remount the camera. Here we have the button which is used to capture video by the driver. If something unique happens and they want to highlight that particular video, they can hit that button and it captures 30 seconds before and 30 seconds after and saves that into a special file so it's not overwritten. And then we have the other wiring pieces. In the back here we have the antenna, and this is the cellular antenna. Now you'll notice this is slightly curved. This surface is what goes on the windshield itself, so that has to be correct, otherwise you're going to diminish the signal. Then we just have some other parts that need to get connected up to the vehicle. As you can see, we've got the vehicle open, and in this particular vehicle we determined that on the right hand side we need more room for some of the larger components. So we're going to mount those components on the right hand side behind and around the glove box area and just run the wires back over to the ignition column to get true ignition, power, and ground. The other thing to keep in mind is that, with this particular camera system, you can mount up to 8 cameras on a particular vehicle. That includes a backup camera, side cameras, and a dome camera, which might go in the cargo section of the vehicle in the back, so you can see who's back there and what's coming and going off the back of the truck. So as you think about your game plan for installation, make sure that you're taking into an account of the number of cameras, where they're going to be placed, where all the equipment is going to mount before you start making connections and tying things together, because if you get it wrong, you're going to have to back up, undo a lot of things, and then start moving forward. Once you get the first vehicle done and you understand the game plan, then going forward it becomes much easier. And like we said, in this case we found more room to store some of the larger components on the right hand side, and we'll just run the wires and the push button back over to the left hand side. One thing to keep in mind with this system is you have to be careful about how you disconnect power when you're working on the system, or when you're going to take the SD card out. If you power the system down incorrectly, you can actually corrupt the data on the SD card. So if you have to come back and service the vehicle, or you're going to move the camera to a different vehicle, know how to power the unit down. And the correct way to power the unit down is by depressing this orange button until the LED screen turns off. Once that goes blank, then you know you're safe. You can remove the card, you can disconnect the unit, that type of thing. But you always want to make sure that after you give power to it and you're recording, that you want to power the unit off effectively using that orange button right there. If you don't do that and the file's corrupt, there's probably nothing we can do to help you. You may need a new SD card, at least have to send it back, get it reconfigured and sent back out to you. So making sure that you communicate that to anybody that's going to be accessing the SD card, anybody that's going to be working on the cameras themselves, is extremely important. The other thing that is extremely important with this is the mounting system. And we talked about the bracket before, but getting this to stick to the glass is actually part of the challenge of this particular platform. And everything has been tried, actually all the way and including working with 3M to try to figure out what works in all the different environments that vehicles experience. And it's a pretty difficult challenge. The standard automotive tape that everybody uses that you can get at your home goods store will not work. It will fail over time. And if you use the adhesive pad and cleaning materials included with the system, then you're going to get the right performance. You have to pay attention to the temperature. It's got to be above 55 degrees, and you've got to take and you have to pay attention to the amount of time that it takes for the chemicals to cure and get ready to set. So when you do attach this to the permanent adhesive pad and to the glass, that it is a permanent fixture. Otherwise, it's just not going to be covered by warranty, and you're going to have frustrations with the cameras falling down. It is important that the installers understand that they only clean the glass with the materials provided. A lot of installers will clean the glass with Windex or rubbing alcohol, and typically in an install that's okay. With this system and the chemicals that are on the adhesive pad, that is not okay. That's like applying grease to the window. It will not work. Your cameras will fall down. They should only use the cleaning materials that are provided. If they come back and apply Windex like one company did and they couldn't figure out why their cameras kept falling down, and through investigation they finally figured out after talking to the installer, yeah, so I used what you got, and then I did a little extra with some Windex, and the Windex removed the chemicals, and the chemical reaction didn't take place like it should have, so the cameras were coming down. So follow the instructions very carefully on how to mount this to the glass, and you'll have far fewer problems down the road. Okay, on the back of the camera you will see where the SD card is, which is located right here. You have the two locking mechanisms, and you'll get a special key for those. And then you also have the interior facing camera there, which you can turn on or off. It's an option. And you also have the option of having audio recorded or not recorded inside the cab of the vehicle. It's extremely important when working with this camera that the power be disconnected correctly. If you are moving the camera or doing an install or a service and you disconnect the power incorrectly, you can damage the information or corrupt the SD card, and then you're going to lose the information that's on that card. So if you're going to remove the card, you need to properly power down the camera before taking out the card. And to do that, you have an orange button on the side. You press and hold that for 5 to 8 seconds. You'll see the LED screen on the other side of the camera go black, and once it's black, then you know it's safe to go ahead and open the camera, disconnect the power, remove the SD card, do those types of things. Those keys are unique and they should prevent any tampering with the system, but you always want to make sure that you're getting into your system periodically and checking to make sure that you're getting information through some type of exception, or you can connect through the live feed, because if something goes wrong in the vehicle and then you end up having an accident and you haven't checked it in 6 months, then you could have a situation where you don't have any recorded information and you're going to lose the value of making the investment in the camera system. So this is not fire and forget technology. Stay on top of it, spot check it, make sure everything continues to work, there's no tampering or installation issues, and you should be good to go. When you mount the camera to the glass, it's going to look something like this, right? So this goes to the glass. This side here is where the camera connects. Once this is permanently mounted to the glass, then you want to go in and adjust the angle of the camera. And to do that, you'll see a nut that's in here. There's a wrench that comes with the kit. You loosen that nut, you adjust the angle appropriately, tighten the nut, and then you reattach the camera, lock the camera back down, and you should get a good view of either the interior or the exterior of the camera, depending on the angle and the adjustments that you make. So the mounting of the antenna that you see in this picture can be where it's most effective, and we decided to put it in this particular location because the shape of the glass in other areas really reduced the amount of contact with the adhesive pad. In this location, the shape of the antenna, the curvature of the antenna, and the curvature of the glass matched fairly well. And because of that, we decided to put it there. We also have the other components located on that side of the vehicle, which will make the running of the wires that much easier. You can certainly look through your vehicle to determine where is the best location for you to have it mounted on your particular vehicle, but I'm sure it's going to vary by vehicle type, make, model year, those types of things. In the instructions, it says to go ahead and clean the glass with a non-alcohol glass cleaner in preparation for the temporary pad. The temporary pad is used to get the rough location where the camera mount is going to be located. Obviously that is a personal choice as to where you want those cameras to be set based on what might be obstructed by the camera. In this case, we found that there's only a little portion of the camera that actually blocks the driver's view by putting it right in the middle. Most of the camera is behind the rear view mirror already. So we only add a little bit more to the obstructed view by placing it directly behind the rear view camera. It also just looks good in that location and will give us even view distribution across the front of the vehicle, but also on the interior of the vehicle, we'll be able to see all 4 seats relatively well. Okay, once the primer is dried, go ahead and put the permanent adhesive pad on the glass, rolling it on to prevent air bubbles. Next, take the mounting bracket and hold it against the adhesive pad for 30 seconds. At this time, you can go ahead and tuck the wires in. Take the slack out of the wires to make sure it looks aesthetically pleasing. Tucking the wires up behind the headliner. Before securing the camera, you want to angle the mounting bracket to where you think it's going to work well. In this case, you probably want to tilt it down just a little bit more before you tighten the internal tightening screw. It's roughed in. You go ahead and remove the camera. Take the Allen wrench. Get the camera nice and secure. It definitely needs to be tight because you don't want it vibrating as the vehicle's moving down the road, which is going to create vibration in your video. Now at this point, you really don't know if that's perfectly aligned. So what you're going to have to do is actually go collect some video from the web interface and look at the angle of the camera, and then come back and make slight adjustments if it is not getting you the view that you're looking for. And obviously you need to take a look at the interior and exterior camera if you are using both cameras. So now when we have power to the camera, we have to understand that even though we can turn the ignition off, the camera is still going to stay on for up to several hours depending on the off delay that's programmed into the camera. So before you remove the SD card or service the camera, you actually have to go through that process of pressing and holding the orange button to reduce or eliminate all power going to the camera, because if the camera is still on due to the off delay setting and you disconnect the camera, you could still corrupt the SD card even though the ignition is off. To unlock the camera, use the provided keys, press and turn and release, and you'll notice the 2 arms that come out like that. And then to lock, you simply push those 2 pegs in and the camera is now locked, protecting the SD card. The final step in the process is to go ahead and button everything up. Make sure that you use zip ties on all the connections so nothing comes loose. And that includes connecting the wires to the modules, the plugs, anything that you're plugging in or connecting. It is very important also during the installation process that you do not use T-taps or Scotch locks. We highly recommend the poke and wrap technique. If you don't know what that is, you can look for it online. And also soldering. This is a fairly significant install. Once you get proficient with this process, you're looking at about 45 minutes to an hour per vehicle for the camera system itself. You can add a few more minutes to that for the GPS system if you've got one of those going in as well. So an hour to an hour 15 is probably about what you're going to expect. The other part that is something to note is we're in Florida. It's Tampa. It's the middle of the summer right now and it is hot. And whether you're working in an extreme cold or you're working in the extreme heat like we are today, then it's important to account for the weather. And when you're working outside in the real cold, your fingers really don't start to work below 30 degrees. And when you get down into the teens and 20s, you might as well forget it. Any fine motor skills are going out the window. You can't wear heavy gloves and do this type of work. Conversely, when you're doing this type of work in the hot summer sun, you have to account for a slowdown, you got to hydrate. If you can find any place that's covered, even setting up a temporary tent that you can roll these vehicles through, you can get fans going, and you can basically start an assembly line or a production line type environment to get these trucks through on some kind of set schedule. So instead of taking all the trucks off the road every day, then maybe they come through an hour through the day. Or you hire professionals which can come at night and they can work through the night when it's cooler and your trucks are not affected, the productivity is not affected, it's not impacting your routing and your scheduling process as well. So lots of things to consider. We have more information on installation considerations on the website fleetistics.com, and if you like this video and appreciate the content, please like and share below. Also give us some feedback, a nice review would be appreciated, and if you have any problems or you have an interest in this particular camera system, let us know. You know, this data matches up with the Geotab GPS tracking and telematics platform that we also provide. That data gets married in the cloud, and then you can see the GPS data matched to the camera data, so when you have an exception from the GPS system, you're seeing the video clip that goes along with that. And also with this particular system, you have the option of selecting to go live, and you can actually log in and see in near real time what's going on with that particular video. Again, fleetistics.com, we'd love to earn your business. Please give us a call, and good luck. Thank you.